Production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.
This time on Broad and High, a local dancer shows us you can be sultry at any size.
What has made it attractive to people over the years is less the dance form and more the celebration of a confident woman who is very comfortable in her own skin.
And we'll check out some seldom seen paintings by the late British statesman Sir Winston Churchill. This and more right now on Broad and High. Welcome to Broad and High. I'm your host, Kate Quickle, and we're going to start the show tonight with some shimmies and shakes. Columbus dancer Karen Bradford gives us a lesson in the traditional Middle Eastern folk dance known as the belly dance.
It's an indescribable feeling of joy when I belly dance. There's energy, it's a stress reliever, it makes me feel more creative, it makes me happy, it's just kind of fun. 5, 6, 7, 8, shoulder now, slide, slide, drop, shimmy, and 5, 6, 7, drop it down and now. I've been teaching belly dance at Worthington Community Center since about 2006. I'd say the biggest challenge people have is just letting themselves go. And once you get over that, once you're like, yes, I can. I have hips, and I can move my hips in this way. And it's okay if I move my hips in this way. It's great. You get your heart going, you get your body moving, you move muscles that you never knew you had. That's one of the things that a lot of the women who take my class, they say, I never knew I had that. I never knew I could move that muscle.
You're really moving all sorts of things that you wouldn't normally expect. One could do it to break a sweat, but the reality of it is that that's not what you're doing. You're making something beautiful, and I'm in my early 40s and I feel pretty on Monday nights because I go out and go to belly dance class.
Good.
It's a dance that celebrates the body more so than other dance forms that I have both watched and participated in. One thing that really surprised me was just all of the beautiful bodies that are out there doing belly dance. And again, you think the skinny and the skimpy, but it's not like that. It's a dance form that really celebrates all body shapes. And as someone who is not the skinny and the skimpy, it was kind of delightful to go and experience some other belly dancers and think, okay, this is not, gosh, I wish I had less. This is what I have, and this is how I use it. And isn't this fabulous?
Shimmy and 5, 6, 7. Hip circle 1. Da 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 da. Drop, drop.
It kind of has a seductive quality about it, but it's really a dance form that was, developed for women and to kind of feel good in your body and feel sensual and feel attractive. And it's not so much about just luring the men.
What has made it attractive to people over the years is less the dance form and more the celebration of a confident woman who is very comfortable in her own skin. And I think it's just one more way to achieve that.
So what I like to do in my dance is help women discover how strong they are, how wonderful they are, how beautiful they are through these movements. Doom, tech, tech. I was self-conscious. I walked with my shoulders slumped. And through belly dance, it brought me out of all of that. Because with belly dance, you have your posture. And with all the moves, with all the hip moves, I learned that I do have hips and I can move my hips. And it's okay that I move my hips. And I can do beautiful movements in space, and it's okay. And through all these movements, it just brought me out of shell. And that's what I hope to give to other women. If they're in a shell, to break them out of that shell. If they're not confident, to help them gain confidence. If they're having any struggles whatsoever with any kind of body image, to help them learn that they're beautiful and that their body's beautiful and that it's wonderful just as it is. Belly dancing is for everybody. Anybody can go in and do it, love it, be successful at it, enjoy it, be good at it.
Karen Bradford teaches weekly belly dance classes on Monday evenings at the Worthington Community Center. Learn more at KarenDanceFitness.com. If you've caught any of the new series The Crown on Netflix, you know that Winston Churchill, the cigar-smoking British Prime Minister of the early 20th century, was actually an avid painter. The leader of England was in his 40s before he picked up this new hobby, painting landscapes and seascapes. A recent exhibit in St. Louis offered a chance to view some of his paintings that have rarely been seen on this side of the pond.
This exhibition brings together 45 paintings by Sir Winston Churchill, spanning every decade that he was active as a painter, from 1915 through the late 1950s. Audiences who visit the exhibition will see distinct, small, intimate rooms of Churchill's paintings. We have one room, for instance, that's devoted to his love affair with France and French landscapes and French seascapes. We have another room that shows his great admiration for the landscapes and architecture of England. We have a great gallery here featuring his work from the city of Marrakesh. So really, it's thematically organized throughout the exhibition by subject matter.
One of my early memories of my grandfather was standing behind him as he was painting at the easel. One day he decided to paint a still life. He'd been given this big bottle as a present for Christmas. And then he said, go around and get lots of other bottles and things from the different parts of the house, and glasses and cigar boxes, and we'll put them together and I will be able to paint a still life. And he called this bottlescape as opposed to landscape or seascape.
Churchill as a child and as a young man showed no inclination as a painter. As far as we know, he never picked up a crayon. He had no interest in the arts. He was a military man. Eventually rose up to the rank of First Lord of the Admiralty right before the years of World War I. He was in charge of all of British naval forces when the First World War broke out. Shortly thereafter, there was this horrendous stalemate in the trenches in Europe. And Churchill, ever the creative figure, decided that if he had a battle plan to come along and invade the Ottoman Turks on the Eastern Front, it would relieve the pressure in the trenches, thereby shortening the Great War. Gallipoli failed and it was a disaster. The 250,000 Allied forces lost their lives, and Churchill lost his job. Churchill was forced to resign his post as First Lord of the Admiralty and was, by all accounts from family and friends, in despair, despondent, and quite depressed. In fact, we know from eyewitness accounts that it took a distraction, the distraction of painting, to get Churchill out of this foul mood. And by exploring the color and light and observing the natural world around him, he was able to alleviate some of the stresses from the First World War. And it really changed his life, and he never looked back. He painted from that point onward in his life. Throughout Churchill's life, he insisted that he was an amateur painter, not a professional. However, Churchill saw during his lifetime some acclaim, particularly later in life, for his paintings. The reaction of audiences to this exhibition, they come for Churchill, they leave saying, he was a great painter. It really is a terrific testament to the creativity and the mind of Winston Churchill. The same mind that gives us turns of phrase like broad sunlit uplands is the mind that creates and paints broad sunlit uplands using color and light in composition instead of rhetoric that we are all familiar with. People often ask, does Churchill mix his painting and politics? And for the most part, the answer is no. He loved the natural world, loved to paint landscapes and seascapes. He once commented that he liked to paint trees because they don't talk back to you or criticize your work. So that's what you see really here in the exhibition. It's his love of the natural beauty of nature, the sea, the mountains, light reflecting on all of those subjects was what fascinated Churchill most. This painting dates from 1938 and is called Beach at Walmer, a time when Churchill is a member of Parliament but without ministerial office. And he is a virtual lone voice in the wilderness saying that Britain should arm, knowing full well that there was a looming Nazi threat building up on the continent. In fact, Churchill's warnings of the Nazi threat went unnoticed to a government and a people who preferred appeasement. And at this time, Churchill paints this picture of a family bathing in the southern English coast. Across the channel lies France, and he places this foreboding Napoleonic-era cannon on the beach as if to say, we must arm, as he did so famously in the broadcast of 1938 to the American people. And in the painting, in the surf, there's a lone figure with a little tuft of red hair. That is Winston Churchill himself. This painting is called Tower of Kutubia Mosque, and it's the only painting that Churchill painted during the Second World War. It dates from 1943 in January, shortly after the Casablanca Conference, where Churchill and President Roosevelt met to discuss the outcome of the Second World War. It shows the sun setting on the Atlas Mountains with the city of Marrakesh in the foreground. And interestingly enough, and only Churchill could do this, he convinced after the Casablanca Conference, Roosevelt to travel about 150 miles from Casablanca to the city of Marrakesh only so they could watch the sunset bathe on the Atlas Mountains. The two leaders did so. They shared a moment. Shortly thereafter, Churchill asked his aides and assistants, "Fetch me my paint box. I'd like to capture this moment." He did so, painting this painting, which he later then gave to President Roosevelt as a memento of this great relationship between these two leaders. I don't think you can separate Churchill the speaker, Churchill the writer, Churchill the war planner from Churchill the painter. The creativity, the visionary thinking, the ability to see the world in all of its component parts, a very complex world, is like seeing a complex canvas and organizing those elements of a painting that only Winston Churchill could do. For that reason, I think his painting reflects his ultra creativity and is a wonderful reflection of the man that Sir Winston Churchill was.
Grandpapa said, when I get to heaven, I mean to spend my first 1,000,000 years in painting and so get to the bottom of the subject. I myself like to picture my grandfather on a fluffy white cloud, painting away to his heart's content and finding even new colors to play with.
Westminster College, in, of all places, Fulton, Missouri, is home to the National Churchill Museum. Churchill visited there in 1946 and delivered one of the most significant speeches of his career, one that effectively marked the beginning of the Cold War. The museum houses more than 200 linear feet of archives and personal papers of the British statesman, as well as original paintings. Check them out at nationalchurchillmuseum.org. Our next story takes us up north to Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens in Akron, where 32 glass flowers were recently in bloom. Glass artist Craig Mitchell-Smith tells us his story.
I had always loved making things. My joy has always come from making things, but I could never label those things art. I just could see it in my head of what I wanted for my garden that didn't exist. And so I borrowed the money for the kiln, and I just started making glass. And my work looks so different from anybody else's glasswork because I'm completely untrained. I was doing things that later I was told you couldn't do. And now I'm traveling the world teaching these methods of glassmaking that we've developed.
Uninhibited by his lack of experience, Craig Mitchell Smith developed a technique of molding glass into three-dimensional shapes.
The technique I have, I don't know that it really has a name yet. I used to be a painter. I was a theatrical set designer. I did a lot of restoration paint work, and so I think like a painter. So what I knew to do once I got a kiln was I started cutting glass in the shape of brushstrokes. I buy chemically compatible glass that can be melted together, and I cut them in the shape of brushstrokes, and then I imagine that the bottom of my kiln is a canvas, and I draw with shards of glass on the floor of my kiln, and then I fire them to about 1,500 degrees, and it liquefies the glass, melts together, and it slowly cools it. So then I end up with a flat piece of glass, but I want those pieces to be three-dimensional and curved. So then I look at each piece of glass and I imagine it comes in a flat form, and I imagine the shape I want it to have, and then I take stainless steel and I bend it or find curves of stainless steel, and I form topography in the bottom of the kiln, and I balance the glass piece on top of it, and when I fire it a second time, the glass gets just warm enough to lose its strength and it collapses onto the curves which it takes on itself. One of the things I love about glass is I'm a language guy, and it's a metaphor for me for the human condition. It is malleable when it's warm, it's brittle when it's cold. At its best, it is transparent and brilliantly colorful. Those are all the things I think we can strive to be as people.
Smith's passion for gardening and flowers is rooted in his childhood.
My inspiration has always come from nature. Ever since I was a little boy, I spent my time in nature, trying to understand and be part of what I see around me. I'm still living in a garden that I started to plant when I was a child. So I am a nurturer. All gardeners, I am a gardener at heart, and all gardeners are people who tend things. So this is a natural expression of the beauty I see in nature around me, is the basis of my personal joy.
Each one of Craig Mitchell Smith's large glass flowers is put together on site, and they can be a bit tricky to assemble.
This is when you're most likely to crack the glass. When you drill glass, it has to be kept wet to both lubricate it and cool it.
Through a couple of years of experimentation, I learned how to bolt the glass together with cushy fittings in between them, and we learned how to put the glass together in a way that's durable and holds up through these winters.
Drill this last hole and then this one. Done.
As Craig Mitchell Smith goes about planting and pruning his glass flowers, he hopes that visitors will be inspired to stop by each of the 10 gardens at Stan Hewitt and smell the roses.
Our goal is these pieces are beautiful, and they're sited exactly where I wanted them to go. I'm trying to get people to see the gardens in a new way, and we've situated all the pieces so that there are beautiful photographic opportunities with the house always as the background. One of my favorites, of course, are the poppies. I love doing those insanely happy looking orangey red poppies on their twisting copper stems, just rising out of the magnificent flower beds, adding a color that right now the beds are filled with purple and lavender, and you've got this shock of orange. But later on in the season, more of the flowers are orange and red and gold. So what I'm trying to do is give people a reason to come back and see the gardens anew. They're very beautiful gardens, and they're very different spring, summer, and fall.
See more work by Craig Mitchell Smith on his website or by following him on Facebook. Finally tonight, let Minnesota artist Ernest Miller show you how his passion for clay is infused into each and every one of his expertly formed ceramic creations.
What attracted me to clay was the physicality of working with the clay. As much as it may involve simply sitting at the potter's wheel, and that's what we always see projected, with clay there's so much responsibility. The physicality of moving the clay, wedging the clay, sitting at the wheel, forming, shaping, glazing, into the kiln, out of the kiln. I enjoy that physical engagement. I first became interested in ceramics when I was in high school. Exploring many shapes, many ways of working with clay, it became addicting where I wanted to try every technique in the book. It's kind of like the Wild West of just doing whatever I want all through school and try to absorb what is my favorite way of working. This is one of my favorite parts, is the carving. Because the lines start to come alive, these lines start to become sharp from top to bottom. My relationship or thinking of it is kind of like a carving wood almost. You can see where it's drying just about right where the clay is falling away. The carving is a great way of quickly removing material. I find the carving marks can be distracting from the overall form. Some of my work still will be left simple and round. Over time, I really felt like I needed to engage the pieces after they've been thrown. The carving, the hand manipulation. Glaze formulation is very rewarding, yet at the same time very challenging, because I want to deliver a beautiful surface, but I need reliability as well. And when you have all these number of ingredients that chemically react, they can become volatile and deliver unreliable results. Glazing now is a slow process, but it's very rewarding. I think most of you know this. I like to come across, I'll level the foot. And I left a lot of clay through this area for support. I teach at Fired Up Studios and at the Minnetonka Center for Arts. The type of classes I teach, they can range from very beginner, and people also come to me who've had some experience. So this is where having that clay, the right water content, becomes so important. So I can come in, I'm grabbing that handle, press it in there. Teaching is important because it helps me refresh my ideas. And also when I see new students coming to clay, they will approach clay differently than myself. And it keeps my mind nimble. Here's an experiment. I can't say it worked all that great, but it's just to show not all my cups work out. Some like it, not quite me, but it's good to see. I'm kind of chasing making the perfect pot or the perfect vessel. And that keeps me going back into the studio. Maybe someday when I make that perfect vessel that embodies everything that I'm thinking and feeling, maybe I'll be done, won't make any other pots. But until then, I walk into the studio every day.
That is our show. You can, of course, see all of today's stories at WOSU.org, and be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are leaving you today with the sounds of Montauk Trash, based right here in Columbus. Thank you for watching. Be sure to catch us next week back here on Broad and High.
I got pulled aside when I was younger to be a therapist at school for other kids. So they wanted me to be a student counselor, and I was dealing with my own stuff and I didn't think I could help other people, but they really believed I could help other people. So that is a good reason why I paint, is to deal with my own stuff, and like as long as my hands are busy, everything is a lot easier to deal with because I'm making progress in some way. Like every painting is basically a short-term goal achieved. A lot of people know that I do freestyle painting, or I just make things up as I go along, and I don't know basically what the end product is going to be. But I'm also an illustrator, and I love comic books, and I love cartoons, and I love music, and so anything that makes me happy and spurs me to paint, I do it.
Catch Columbus at its creative best on Broad and High, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on WOSU TV.
Production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.